Ancient mysteries from lost civilizations have always captivated us. But this place, this is different. It's an archaeological site so sensitive that even Google Earth has been known to obscure its coordinates. Imagine rivers of liquid mercury flowing for over 2,000 years, protected by lethal, ancient traps that remain operational to this very day. We are looking at a discovery about ancient China that has the power to rewrite everything we know about history. The world's leading experts know exactly where it is. They have a glimpse of what lies within. Yet they remain paralyzed, refusing to open the final seal. Why is the modern world still afraid of a 2,000-year-old tomb? Let's find out.
Part 1. A king obsessed with death.
Let's step back in time for a moment. To understand why this grave is so scary, we have to understand the man inside, Qin Shi Huang. He wasn't just a king, he was a force of nature. In just a few decades, he did the impossible. He united a massive broken land. He laid the foundation for the Great Wall. He forced the whole world to use one currency and one way of writing. He held a kind of absolute power that is hard for us to even imagine today. But life has a cruel irony. The greater the power, the deeper the darkness. Behind his golden glory was a soul shaking with fear. What was he afraid of? The only thing money and armies couldn't stop. Death. This fear became a true madness. Imagine being only 13 years old, a child, and already obsessing over your own tomb. He didn't want a simple grave. He wanted to take his entire kingdom into the afterlife. To build this dream, he forced over 700,000 people to work in brutal conditions for 40 years. This number is so huge that, in the past, Western scholars often dismissed it. Their racist assumptions led them to believe ancient Easterners couldn't manage such a massive project. But they were wrong. The scale of this underground city is real, and it is bigger than anything we ever imagined. In the end, his search for eternal life was exactly what killed him. He began drinking a magic potion that looked like silver. The doctors promised it would make him live forever. But that medicine was actually liquid mercury, one of the most horrible nerve poisons known to man. The great emperor died in agony and madness, killed by the very thing he hoped would save him. And the irony doesn't end there. That same mercury now guards his sleep like a chemical curse. But how can we be sure those rivers of death are still there after 2,000 years? The answer didn't come from a book. It came from a lucky find at the bottom of an old abandoned well. If you're around my age, you surely remember the year 1972. That was the year President Richard Nixon made his historic trip to China. At that time, to the rest of the world, China was like a mysterious black box, completely closed off from the West. We knew almost nothing about what was happening inside that communist nation. But just 2 years after Nixon's visit, another secret box, one much larger and far more ancient, was accidentally pried open. And as it turned out, it didn't just contain soldiers. When we talk about this tomb, we usually only think of the Terracotta Army. But did you know that Qin Shi Huang didn't just want protection in the afterlife? He wanted entertainment. Archaeologists have found separate chambers where there isn't a single weapon in sight. Instead, they discovered terracotta musicians holding ancient instruments and acrobats frozen in incredibly lifelike, flexible poses. This was truly mind-blowing. In the past, scholars with biased mindsets, and let's be honest, views that were often racist, claimed that ancient Eastern art was crude, stiff, or primitive. They refused to believe that people back then could sculpt rippling muscles or fluid, graceful movements out of simple clay. But these acrobats are living proof of a vibrant, sophisticated culture. It was a kingdom the emperor intended to take with him, along with all its luxury, into the next world. However, that luxury was built on a foundation of blood. Ancient records tell us that to keep the internal mechanisms a total secret, all the craftsmen and even the childless concubines were buried alive with the king. This is the dark side of absolute power. It is a kingdom of souls, imprisoned forever to serve the loneliness of one man. And if you think the clay statues are the peak of his achievement, just look at the bronze chariots. Archaeologists found 2 massive bronze carriages made from over 3,000 individual parts. Just imagine, each chariot has reins as thin as thread but incredibly strong, and sun umbrellas that can tilt and adjust to the angle of the light. It is a masterpiece of mechanical engineering. In fact, scientists found evidence of complex welding and casting techniques that the West wouldn't master for another 1,000 years. This level of detail makes us wonder, if the items on the outside were this exquisite, how magnificent must the emperor's coffin, the most protected object of all, actually be? There is a fact that many people miss. This tomb isn't just a grave, it's a city. It covers 38 square miles. That's larger than the island of Manhattan. The entire layout is a perfect mirror image of the capital city, Xianyang. It has inner walls, outer walls, palaces, and watchtowers. Qin Shi Huang created a kingdom in the mirror. He wanted to continue ruling from underground, surrounded by his civil officials, military generals, and all the servants he had in life. His arrogance was so great that he believed he could defeat death itself by recreating life. But that kingdom was forgotten for millennia, buried under the dust of time and the rebellions that followed his death, until a farmer's shovel hit it in 1974. The kingdom is still there, silent and challenging. It is a test of both human greed and modern wisdom. We can see the palaces through radar scans. We can touch the bronze chariots at the edge. But why, more than 50 years after it was found, have we not been able to take even one step into the heart of the city of souls? Is it because we fear the traps, or are we afraid of a real curse that science still cannot name? The answer might be much more terrifying than you think. Picture a dusty morning in 1974. A group of poor farmers are digging a well, hoping for water to save their dying crops. They weren't looking for history. They were just trying to survive. When a shovel hit something hard, they thought it was just an old pot. But as they brushed away the red clay, a human face appeared, staring back at them with cold and powerful eyes. They didn't find water. They found the Terracotta Army, 8,000 soldiers standing guard. What shocked experts wasn't just the number of statues, but the insane detail. Every soldier has a different face. Some look stern, others look like they are hiding a smile. At that time, some people still held racist ideas that ancient civilizations weren't capable of such high art. This discovery proved them wrong instantly. But then, a tragedy happened right before their eyes. Those statues you see as gray today, they weren't always like that. When they first came out of the dirt, they were brilliant. Bright reds, deep blues, royal purples. They looked like real men standing there. But within just 15 seconds of touching the air of the 20th century, the paint began to curl and peel. In minutes, the beauty of 2,000 years vanished forever. Scientists cried as they watched it happen. They realized their own curiosity had destroyed something that could never be replaced. It was a painful lesson. Sometimes touching the past is the fastest way to kill it. If a few statues at the edge of the tomb cause this much fear and loss, what is waiting in the main chamber? Is it a golden paradise or a trap? The answer isn't in the statues, it's in the very dirt itself. Can you smell the metal in the air? Scientists don't usually believe in ghost stories. They believe in data. So to check the legends, they brought in high-tech ground-scanning radar and chemical sensors. For a century, many experts ignored the old stories of mercury rivers. They thought it was just a racist myth used to make the emperor sound more magical than he was. But when the lab results came back, everyone went cold with fear. The mercury levels in the soil weren't just high, they were 300 times higher than normal. The legends were true. There is a map of the world down there, where the rivers are made of flowing, silver poison. Think about that for a second. A room sealed for 20 centuries. Inside, tons of mercury have been evaporating into a thick, deadly cloud. The air in there isn't oxygen anymore. It's a chemical bomb. If you took even one small breath, your lungs would feel like they were on fire. Your nervous system would shut down instantly. This is why scientists are terrified. If they open the tomb incorrectly, that poison cloud could leak out and pollute the entire area. They aren't just scared for themselves, they are scared for the world. But mercury and arrows still aren't the biggest problem. There is something even more clever hidden in the architecture, something that could turn the entire tomb to dust in a heartbeat. You might ask, why not use a robot? We have rovers on Mars. Yeah, that's a fair point. But here's the problem that makes top engineers tip their hats in respect. This tomb isn't just a room. It's a giant, complex machine. The ancient engineers solved a problem we still struggle with today: groundwater. They built massive dams and drainage systems to keep the tomb dry for 2,000 years. Again, old racist myths tried to say people back then didn't understand physics. But our radar shows a self-balancing pressure system built right into the structure. Here is the nightmare. The tomb is like a giant, fragile bubble. Experts warn that if we drill even a tiny hole to drop a camera in, that pressure will vanish. Imagine the chaos. The modern air rushing in would cause a chain reaction. The ancient wood and stone would crack and collapse in seconds. Those mercury rivers would flood everything. The emperor's coffin would be crushed under millions of tons of earth before a single lens could even catch a glimpse of his face. It's a suicide trap. Qin Shi Huang made a final, cold-blooded move. If he can't keep his secrets, he will destroy them. He would rather his legacy turn to dust than let us look at it. We are being beaten by a man who has been dead for 2,000 years. So do we admit defeat, or is there a tiny crack in his armor that future science can slide through? After seeing the traps, the poison, and the genius of this place, we realize something simple. Some secrets are meant to be kept. Perhaps this tomb isn't a puzzle to be solved today, but a treasure to be protected for tomorrow. Until that day comes, the first emperor lies there in total darkness. He is surrounded by his silver rivers and his loyal army. We have to admit it, Qin Shi Huang won. He successfully protected his privacy from the modern world. For a long time, racist biases tried to tell us that ancient cultures were primitive. But this tomb is the loudest answer possible. It reminds us that our ancestors were brilliant, powerful, and possessed secrets we still can't explain. Thank you so much for joining me on this dramatic journey. Your presence makes these stories come alive. Now I want to hear from you. What do you think? Should we risk everything to open that tomb, or should we let the emperor rest in peace with his secrets? Let me know in the comments below. If you love exploring mysteries and the incredible stories of our human past, please hit the subscribe button and turn on the bell. It's the best way to make sure you don't miss our next adventure. Goodbye for now, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next mystery.